Yo guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with episode 35 of our Reddit series, and today I got something special for you. We are gonna look at the most entitled people flight attendants have witnessed over the years. If you could like the video, I would appreciate that very much, and if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe. Now just sit back, relax, and enjoy some entitled people. Flight attendants, both past and present. What's the most entitled behavior you have seen from a passenger? Former flight attendant here. I remember flying into San Francisco and going through the final walkthrough, asking everybody to wake up, buckle up, headrests forward, tray tables up, and collect trash. Halfway through, the pilot said, "Flight attendants, be seated immediately," which indicates a lot of upcoming turbulence. So I quickly started to trot through with my trash bag to my jump seat when a man yelled, "Hey!" I was a few rows past him and he had hit cup and wet nap in his hand. I quickly said, "I have to sit down," and turned back towards the back galley. I then felt something hit me. I looked back and he had thrown his trash at me and was staring at me like the little guy he was. I heard a few people gasp and everyone in the last 8 rows or so was tuned into the drama. I picked up the trash and walked over to his row and said, "I'm sorry, I cannot take trash right now. The pilot has indicated that I need to sit down," and I tossed the trash back on his lap. He just kind of stared at me with a defiant look in his face and held out the trash again as if I was going to take it. I turned and left and I heard him yell a few more times, but he did not throw anything. I have had a lot of stupid passengers before, but for some reason that one sticks out. I am a passenger, not a flight attendant, but it's a good story nonetheless. I was on a flight from New York City to PDX. The only empty seat was next to me, a middle seat. Bulkhead, but the kind where there isn't a wall, just the first class seats in front of us. The door is about to close when a large sweaty man comes running onto the plane to claim the empty seat. He was carrying a full-size pizza box. All overhead bins were already closed and full, but that did not stop him from proceeding to open them to find a place to stash his pizza. The stewardess kindly informed him that he could not put his pizza in an overhead bin. "But it will get stepped on," he gruffly informs her. She proceeded to tell him to take his seat and put the pizza in front of him. He told her that he flies with pizza all the time and has never been treated this way. He persisted, but as their argument was getting pretty heated, he finally succumbed and put the pizza under the seat in front of him and sat down. The stewardesses have now started the safety video demonstration and he pulls out a flip phone and proceeds to make a call. I cannot tell he's going through menus, so I'm thinking he's calling Delta to complain. Nope, it turns out to be his landline phone company. He had been late paying his bill and was trying to get them to waive the late fee. They would not. He is arguing with them and the plane has pushed back from the gate and is headed toward the runway at this point. The stewardess comes over and tells him he needs to put his phone away right now. He motions with his hand to say, "Just 1 minute." "No sir, it needs to be put away now." He flips it shut dramatically mid-sentence and puts it in his pocket. The stewardess is back to the front of the plane and he then decides to stretch. I'm pretty much plastered to the wall, trying to stay out of his way as he extends his arms up and then to the side, etc. He then twists in his seat back and forth, clearly agitated. He then extends his arms up and stretches out his fingers and proceeds to crack his knuckles, sort of like a primary school bully would do on the playground before they were gonna kick your ass. In that whole knuckle cracking process, he flips a middle finger toward the flight attendant. I did not notice her reaction as I was just waiting to get this 6-hour flight underway and over with. The next thing I know, I can tell we are pulling back into the gate. "Flight attendants, prepare for arrival and cross-check." The door opens, the cockpit door opens, and the captain comes to our row and says, "Sir, I understand you were harassing my flight attendant. I need you to leave the plane now." The pizza man attempted to argue and even ask me and the other neighboring passenger if we had witnessed anything. Clearly, the pilot was not budging on his decision, so the guy got his pizza off the floor and left the plane. The door closed and we departed with an empty seat next to me. And yes, before you ask, the OP actually posted a picture of the pizza box under his seat on the airplane. Guys, what is the craziest thing you have witnessed on an airplane? Please tell me what you have witnessed so far in the comments. Not one specific passenger, but a type of behavior I have unfortunately seen too much of. A couple will book separate seats. The man in a premium economy seat with extra legroom and the woman in a normal economy seat. The woman will then play the sad sack and ask another passenger to give up their comfy seat so they can sit together. If the other passenger refuses, usually because they paid extra and literally don't fit in a regular seat, and some will even complain to the crew to make them move the other passenger. And all of this to save a few bucks on the second premium seat. Added, seeing as a lot of people asked, no. The crew don't move passengers because they are sitting next to someone else's spouse, and certainly not from a premium economy seat. That's honestly a scummy thing to do, but now that I think of it, I might have done that as well. I mean, I have given up my seat. I was on a Vegas to Boston flight when a passenger passed away in his sleep. The whole situation was heartbreaking and the flight attendants were clearly shaken. We stopped in New York City for emergency personnel to attend to him. The whole process was very quick and the pilot and staff handled it like champions. Just as we were about to take off, a guy in the front row asks the attendant if we would all get free drinks due to the inconvenience. I have never wanted to yell at a stranger so much in my life. Also, the next day I get an email from the airline with a $50 voucher to apologize. I did not want it nor expect it, and I wondered if it happened because some jackass complained about the diversion. I did tweet the airline to compliment the staff. I didn't say what the situation was, just the flight number, and I figured they would figure it out on their handling of the situation. They deserved it. I am not a flight attendant, but I fly a lot, and I was on a plane where half the plane were ignoring the rules and staff. When we touched down, these people immediately got up, walking around and started taking their bags out of the overheads. Mind you, the plane hasn't parked, it just literally touched the floor of the landing strip, so it's still moving, and it is dangerous for half the people on the plane to be dicking around and even worse, taking all their heavy bags down above everyone else's heads. The flight attendants are now desperately trying to get these people to sit down until the plane stops moving, and some people were waving their hands at them dismissively. I think the captain heard the commotion and the flight attendants half yelling because all of a sudden the plane did a very abrupt stop which knocked over all the people standing up and then continued to park. The flight attendant then said, "This is exactly why we have rules." I am 6 feet tall with most of the length in my legs, and I fly a lot, so I have run into a douche or two. Almost every plane I get in, my knees are already touching the seat in front of me, and if the person in front of me reclines, the only way for me to sit is to straighten out my legs and shoot them underneath the seat in front of me. I was probably 16, still 6 feet, and the guy in front of me couldn't have been more than 24. He reclines and his seat practically hits me in the chest. I could smell his hair, he was so close. We asked him to put the seat up a bit, but he declined. The seat was clearly broken and reclined a good 6 inches past the other seats in his row, so we called over the flight attendant. She also saw the problem and asked him to put his seat up and told him it was broken. He said, "No, I won't." And she said there was nothing else she could do. Great, thanks. Luckily my mom is the pack everything you may need on a plane mom, so I get an idea. I start eating pretzels with my mouth wide open and get crumbs all over his head and shoulders. He doesn't notice until the crumbs are bouncing off his shoulder crumbs into his lap. It was gross. He turns around with a look of disgust and asks me to stop. I got great pleasure in telling him no and showing him the rest of the bag of pretzels I had to eat over him. Finally, he put the seat up. I was a kid flying out to Utah to start my teen tour. What the hell is a teen tour, by the way? About halfway through the flight, departing out of New York, The captain got onto the speaker to announce an engine had failed and we needed to make an emergency landing in Chicago. Needless to say, we all got a little concerned. Except for one passenger who stormed up to the flight attendant and explained she was a nanny and needed to get to Utah to attend to the children she took care of. I'm not exactly sure what she was hoping, that the pilot maybe, upon hearing that a babysitter was on board, would maybe risk the lives of everyone to fly us all through. Or that the flight attendant would be so moved by this story that she would climb out on the wing and repair the engine mid-flight. Alas, there was no emergency jetpack to give this passenger to blast away from the airplane to get to Utah on time. So she was told to sit down. I had a similar experience a while ago. I was taking the train from Amsterdam to my hometown in Germany. Shortly before arriving, the train stopped and we were informed someone was attacking people with an axe at the next train station. After about half an hour, the train staff announced that we would skip that stop and continue to the next one half an hour further. An elderly man in a nice looking suit loudly demanded they go to the next stop as planned so he would not miss dinner. They refused and he was not too happy. An X-Man injured 10 people and tried to enter an incoming train that day, and some heroic fella kicked him right back outside and likely saved some lives. I cannot quite see the suit man doing the kicking. I once flew from Chicago to Israel, a very long flight with a stop in the middle, with a woman who did not seem to understand that everyone around her was in the same situation she was in. By the way, quick in the middle question, what was the longest flight you have been on so far? I often fly from Germany to Thailand, so that's the longest flight I've done so far. Anyway, let's continue. The woman dropped a number of passive-aggressive gems over the course of our day together, but the worst one was right when we were being seated for the first leg. The plane was one of those 3x5x3 setups with aisles on each side of the 5-seat section, and this woman was seated in the middle of the 5-seat section.
You cannot seat me in the middle. What if I need to get up and walk around and the people next to me are asleep? I will be very uncomfortable for this whole flight.
Wow, lady, you figured out why flying kinda sucks all by yourself. Now sit down and start pretending you're not here like the rest of us. Wow, this triggered a nice memory to offset some of these tales of woe. My wife and I were returning from Paris on a 3x5x3, occupying the aisle and middle seats of the right 3. A handsome and neatly dressed American guy, late 20s, sat across the aisle from me. Then, 2 French girls, pretty good English speakers, came in and sat next to him. A friendly conversation ensued. An hour later, they had switched seats with the Yank in a Gallic sandwich, getting even more friendly. Meals and cuddles alternated for the rest of the flight. After landing, they had to separate for different customs lines, but were back together at the bag claim. I think we had seen the larval stage of a threesome. A few years ago, I was on a flight with a little girl and her 2 parents behind me. About 10 minutes after takeoff, the little girl started kicking my seat, and so I turned around and asked her to stop because it was rude. After she did not listen, I turned around to the parents, but they were both on their phones when the dad looked at me and demanded to know why I was talking to his daughter. I said she was kicking my seat and he yelled at me to turn around, so I did. For the rest of the flight, he instructed his daughter to kick my seat even when I told her to knock it off. He didn't even have headphones in, so would have been able to hear what I said to her. Does anybody else also hate if the person behind you seemingly always kicks against your seat? But I think most of the time it feels like a kick, but it's actually them picking something up or taking a magazine or something. I was actually a passenger. When on an 8-hour flight to Florida, a family of 5 boarded first and then demanded the attendants to rearrange their kids' seats to all be together. I get it, I'm a mom now too, but they occupied my seat and in fact the entire row while the flight attendant tried to arrange them to all sit together. I politely asked them to let us sit down and they just ignored us. I asked again and they said,
"No, we are waiting for our seats and you can wait at the back of the plane."
I just crossed my arms and stared them down. I held up the whole plane and I do feel bad about that, but I made it clear that it was the entitled family that was the holdup and not me. They finally moved to go wait at the back of the plane. I cannot stand people that think they are a higher class just because they have kids. Not an attendant, but once I got stranded at Newark for 22 hours after our flight had an unfixable fault and was cancelled late at night. We got put up in a hotel, but understandably by the time the new flight rolled around, earliest they could fit in a new flight, everyone was quite tired and agitated. As we were waiting to board the new flight, the flight attendant announces that they would be boarding people with additional needs and families with young children first, followed by first class, then premium economy, etc, etc. All pretty standard stuff. Obviously it can take a bit longer for people in wheelchairs to board, so makes sense for them to go on first. It's common on most airlines, I believe. Anyway, this business dude races to the front of the crowd and starts yelling at the attendant, saying it was already
disgusting
that he had lost a day due to their incompetence and now he had to wait even longer despite being a first-class passenger and paying top dollar every year to fly with them. The worst part is, he's looking at others in the crowd to back him up. Like it's perfectly reasonable to scream at this woman who, like us, also has been stranded and had most likely had very little sleep, and also was doing her best to do her job in this difficult situation. But she was awesome, and without missing a beat, she smiled and nodded and said, "Okay, sir." And then she made a big point of leaning into her mic and telling the waiting line of people in wheelchairs and mothers with babies that this gentleman needed to board before them and could they please wait. Literally every single person at the gate is looking at this guy with disgust as he tries to backtrack and say,
"I don't mind waiting for the first group."
But the attendant says, no, you made yourself quite clear. Let's get you boarded. The others will have to wait." He is humiliated as he sheepishly walks by. She handled it perfectly. So that's the end for the video today. I hope you enjoyed it because it was a little bit different than usual, but tomorrow I will once again upload some classic Entitled Parents content. Thanks for your amazing support. The support on the last video was absolutely insane. We got almost 300 likes and more than 200 comments, which is insane. So please keep up liking and subscribing to my channel and also commenting, because I read every single one of your comments and I appreciate each one of you. So I hope you have a great day and see you tomorrow.